Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another session on books. Today, I'm going to look at few non-fiction books, uh, and I tried to fulfill two conditions. One, they should be page turners, so they should read like fiction. They should, especially thriller and mystery kind of fiction. And second, they these are those books that really you cannot really categorize them into some sort of genre. You can, but you'll have to include more than one. Okay, so that's the idea. So let's begin, and I'll try not to talk myself too much today. I'll let the books do the talking. So basically, I'll quote. Okay, now this one, the first book, is an exception to the two things that I spoke about, in the sense that it is not really a page turner. However, it's a very interesting book, and it's a book that one should read, and it's a book that I found extremely interesting, very nice. But it is not one of those, as if it'll read like a novel. But this book has stood its time. I think it is about a decade old. An anniversary edition was issued recently. So it's called The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. Okay, and how the internet is changing the way we think, read, and remember. So basically, having to do with read, memory, and so on. So, and thinking, of course. Amazing book. I first heard it as an audiobook, and then I bought, and then I read it again. Beautiful. And even though I've told you that it is not a page turner, that doesn't mean it is less interesting. I mean, it is very interesting. A lot of history involved, a lot of research based things involved, philosophy, psychology, sociology. So again, multi-genre thing. So let me quote a couple of paragraphs to you. The experience of reading tends to be better with a book too. So now, book here means a physical book, okay? As compared to a digital book. So the experience of reading tends to be better with a book too. Words stamped on a page in black ink are easier to read than words formed of pixels on a backlit screen. Of course. You can read a dozen or 100 printed pages without suffering the eye fatigue that often results from even a brief stretch of online reading. I think all of us will agree with this. 5 minutes of reading on a screen and we start feeling tired, especially the eyes. But we generally start feeling tired, okay? We may not always be able to think in terms of cause and effect relationships, so we may not be always thinking that this is because of this online reading. But if we think about it, more often than not, that will be the cause. Navigating a book is simpler and, as software programmers say, more intuitive. So this is an ironic statement. Software programmers use the word intuitive for software programs, whereas Nicholas Carr is saying that it is actually the book which is intuitive, and it is obvious. It is intuitive. You can flip through real pages much more quickly and flexibly than you can through virtual pages. And you can write notes in a book's margins or highlight passages that move or inspire you. You can even get a book's author to sign its title page. Okay? Then one more. When a printed book, whether a recently published scholarly history or a 200-year-old Victorian novel, is transferred to an electronic device connected to the internet, meaning when it is made into an ebook, it turns into something very like a website. So he's saying, even a book, if it is made digital, doesn't remain like a book anymore. It becomes like a website. And he'll elaborate this. Its words become wrapped in all the distractions of the networked computer. I think nobody has to tell us that, when we are reading online, we are going all over the place. Its links and other digital enhancements propel the reader hither and yon, meaning here and there, of course. It loses what the late John Updike was an great American novelist. John Updike called its edges and dissolves into the vast, roiling waters of the net. So, of course, a physical book exists in space. It exists in a physical realm, okay? And but however, a digital book, even though it is a book, doesn't, there is no visual memory of which page I am, where am I in a book when I'm reading it. it has dissolved into the internet, into the web or whatever. So for example, here, if I read here, there's a physical space where I am. And research shows that helps us understand better, that helps us remember better because of the physical aid. The linearity of the printed book is shattered along with the calm attentiveness it encourages in the reader. So the moment you make it digital, the linearity is shattered, and of course the attentiveness also goes away. The high-tech features of devices like the Kindle and Apple's new iPad may make it more likely that we'll read ebooks, but the way we read them will be very different from the way we read printed editions, of course. So even if people move on fully to ebooks, the experience will be completely different. So a very nice book. I think you should read it purely because it's a nice book, but also in your case it is very relevant because you'll get to know what is the cost of spending a lot of time online. And sometimes you may think that I'll read an ebook or whatever, but it's not the same experience. You may be losing out on a few things and so on. Of course, sometimes it can't be helped, and so please go ahead and do that, but as much as one can help it. Okay, now let's come to those page turners. So the first one is Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods. Okay, if you remember Bill Bryson from the science books video, he wrote this book I recommended as an introductory book on science called A Short History of Nearly Everything. So I told you he's mostly a travel writer, and he is a very funny writer and so on. So this is a book about his experiences. He took a trek on the Appalachian Trail, one of the longest trails, or maybe the longest trail in the world, I think. It is around 3,500 kilometers. So the trail is 3,500 kilometers. He walked that, and it goes through all sorts of terrains, all sorts of weathers, all sorts of topology. There are bears, other dangerous wild animals, rattlesnakes, all sorts of stuff. Okay, so an absolutely funny, hilarious, amazing book, very nice. Okay, so let me just read a couple of paragraphs. On the afternoon of 5th July 1983, 3 adult supervisors and a group of youngsters set up camp at a popular spot beside Lake Kenaimina, I don't know how to pronounce it, in the fragrant pine forests of western Quebec, about 80 miles north of Ottawa, in a park called La Vérendrye or whatever provincial reserve. They cooked dinner and afterwards, in the correct fashion, secured their food in a bag and carried it 100 or so feet in the woods, where they suspended it above the ground between 2 trees, out of the reach of bears. So this is the recommended thing. If you are in bear country, meaning if you are in a place where there are bears, you should need to make sure that your food, cooked or otherwise, you should place it on a tree or hang it on a tree or something far away from your tent, because the bears have amazing sense of smell and they will come looking for it if they are around. Okay, so they did that. About midnight, a black bear came prowling around the margins of the camp, spied the bag and brought it down by climbing one of the trees and breaking a branch. He plundered the food and departed. Now this is where it gets interesting. But an hour later he was back, this time entering the camp itself, drawn by the lingering smell of cooked meat in the campers' clothes and hair, in their sleeping bags and tent fabric. So they must have eaten food and whatever, so their hair, their clothes smelled of food. He came because of that smell the second time. It was to be a long night for the campers' party. 3 times between midnight and 3:30 a.m., 3.5 hours, the bear came to the camp. Imagine, if you will, lying in the dark, alone in a little tent, nothing but a few microns of trembling nylon between you and the chill night air, listening to a 400-pound bear, roughly speaking 200 kilograms, moving around your campsite. Imagine its quiet grunts and mysterious snufflings, the clatter of appended cookware and sounds of moist gnawings, the pad of its feet and the heaviness of its breath, the singing or the singeing brush of its haunch along your tent side. Imagine the hot flood of adrenaline, that unwelcome tingling in the back of your arms at the sudden rough bump of its snout against the foot of your tent, the alarming wild wobble of your frail shell as it roots through the backpack that you left casually, propped by the entrance. With you suddenly recall a Snickers bar in the pouch. Bears adore Snickers bar, you've heard. So you can expect that this is going to get interesting, and so on. So this is just one incident though. So as I told you, hilarious book, very funny. Right now it wasn't, but it is, and adventurous, very nicely written. He's a great writer, I've told you before, and a page turner. So beautiful book. Please go ahead and read that. Okay, this is the second book. The Hidden Life of Trees. This book, I wasn't ready for it in the sense that I didn't have a clue what this book was going to tell me, in the sense that probably nobody did. This book started it all, and then a lot of stuff on this came on the internet, similar stuff, the trees and so on. But it was shocking. Like, you just don't expect this, that trees are like this. Okay, so let me just let the book tell you what this is. So this is from the introduction, not written by the author but by an Indian nature writer, naturalist, tree grower, Pradeep Krishan. Okay, so this is his introduction. This is an Indian edition, that's why I think he was given this to write. What would you say if you met a man who told you that trees have feelings and experience pain? What if a man told you? I'm sure you'll think that this person has lost it, isn't it? That trees have feelings and they feel pain. That they communicate with other members of their species and support their young. They communicate with other members and support their young. Chances are you'd smile indulgently and start patting your pockets for your car keys. Of course, you'll think, what is it? Has he gone mad or something? What if he went on to say that trees have memory, hearing, language? That they can form circles of friends and see colors. By now you'd have put on your quick heart smile and said, look, I'm sorry, but I really have to run. Of course, you'll think that this person has gone mad or something. So now this guy is asking, right? And then he says, wrong. You'd be a fool to go away. Here's a book written by a woodsman that will disarm you with its gentle explanations and blow you away with new insights into the world of trees. Seeing, feeling, hearing, these are sensory abilities that we find hard to think about differently from the way humans or animals use them. But break them down into basic neural molecular components, and it's not hard to accept, for example, that leaf tissue sends out electrical signals when it is nibbled, just like human tissue does when it is hurt. So then I'll read something from the foreword, again not written by the author but by a very great science writer called Tim Flannery. Just a little bit, okay? One reason that many of us fail to understand trees is that they live on a different time scale than us. One of the oldest trees on earth, a spruce in Sweden, is more than 9,500 years old. 9,500. Let that sink in. That's 115 times longer than the average human lifetime. Creatures with such a luxury of time on their hands can afford to take things at a leisurely pace, of course. So, believe me, I'm repeating, this book, unless you already know, because of, I told you after this book, a lot of such stuff came on the internet, and also, unless you know, you are in for an amazing surprise, pleasant surprise. You'll be shocked. And you'll be in awe of these trees. Okay, so awesome book. All right, then let's come to an absolute page turner, The Lost City of Zed, by David Gran, a New Yorker writer. If you remember, I told you New Yorker writers are very, very good. So this book is actually a mystery thriller. Okay, just like a fiction mystery thriller. The pages will turn on their own almost. Beautiful, amazing stuff. So this book is about a mythical / semi-mythical city deep in the Amazon forests. people have named it called people have named it the city of Zed, and it is supposed to supposed to have been a advanced civilization, very rich city, gold and all sorts of stuff there and so on. Hundreds of, if not thousands, I think, scientists have gone looking for it over hundreds of years, and most of them never came back. Most of them probably died in the rainforest and all. So it's about that. Okay, so this author, he also goes and then his research and everything. So let me just read a couple of paras again. It has been described as the greatest exploration mystery of the 20th century, the whereabouts of the lost city of Zed. The ancient city, with its network of roads and bridges and temples, was believed to be hidden in the Amazon, the largest jungle in the world. In an age of airplanes and satellites, the area remains one of the last blank spaces on the map. For hundreds of years, it has haunted geographers, archaeologists, empire builders, treasure hunters, and philosophers. When Europeans first arrived in South America around the turn of the 16th century, they were convinced that the jungle contained the glittering kingdom of El Dorado. Thousands died looking for it. In more recent times, many scientists have concluded that no complex civilization could have emerged in so hostile an environment. Where the soil is agriculturally poor, mosquitoes carry lethal diseases and predators lurk in the forest canopy. So according to scientists, it's not possible that such a city could have existed, but that didn't stop explorers and all sorts of people to go looking for it. Most of them never came back, as I told you. For nearly a century, explorers have sacrificed everything, even their lives, to find the city of Zed. The search for the civilization and for the countless men who vanished while looking for it has eclipsed the Victorian quest novels of Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes guy, and H. Rider Haggard, both of whom, as it happens, were drawn into the real-life hunt for Zed. At times, I had to remind myself that everything in this story is true. So even the author couldn't believe, certain things that he found out through his research. For example, a movie star really was abducted by the Indians. Indians here means those red Indians, the tribals, Amazon tribes. Okay. There were cannibals, ruins, secret maps and spies. Explorers died from starvation, disease, attacks by wild animals and poisonous arrows. So, amazingly written, awesome book. You won't regret it even a bit. Lastly, The Tiger by John either Valiant or Valiant, howsoever it's pronounced. And I read it a few years back and I was gripped. So to me this was a page turner, but a little warning, not to all of you this will be a page turner, because there are parts, so lots of parts are page turners to I think most, but there are few parts which deal with a lot of history, some anthropology, some ecological stories, whatever. So those parts to some people may not be as exciting, but to me they were very exciting because I really like the context, so not just the story but the context in which things are written. So first of all, this book is about an Amur tiger. Amur tiger is the Siberian tiger, okay, the largest tiger in the world, and a man-eating Amur tiger. So it's about that, the tracking him down and so on. And the most amazing part was that when they were tracking it down through some clues and whatever, I will not disclose all this to you, so I won't spoil your fun, but through some clues and whatever, they figured that this tiger wasn't killing randomly. It wasn't really killing because it became a man-eater. Those clues told them that it was killing as revenge. Like it was taking revenge. Okay, now think about it. The tiger was taking revenge. That's why it was killing. Okay, so the book is about that. That's the story, the tiger. Okay, but what I loved was that it was placed in a larger context of the history of that area, overall Russia, these tribes that have to face these things, what they face in their everyday living, and so on. So to me it was amazing. To me all the parts were page turners, but just to tell you, but however well worth it. Also another motivation for you would be that you can read this book as sort of a multi-genre, a combination of ecological book, a mystery thriller, history, sociology, anthropology, all sorts of stuff. So amazing. Okay. Okay, now let me read one of the most amazing paragraphs that I personally have read. You don't have to agree with it, but I was, the hair at the back of my neck stood on their ends. Okay, I mean, I it was so amazing. Of course, the book was building up to that and whatever, so it's towards the end. But man, oh man, it was so amazing. So I'll read it to you. So please pay attention. Okay, so the background is that they are tracking the tiger, and then they suddenly, so they enter what is known as a clearing. Clearing is like an open area in a bushy or area surrounded by trees. So some sort of an open area. So they come there and they realize, because of again some clues, that the tiger is nearby and maybe very close by. Okay, which is obviously scary. A tiger is a big guy, and Amur tiger is around 250 kilograms. Okay, so they suddenly realize that. Okay, so now pay attention. A moment later, the clearing I told you, a moment later the clearing exploded. Remember, we use the word explode for a bomb. Okay, so pay attention. A moment later the clearing exploded. The first impact of a tiger attack does not come from the tiger itself, but from the roar. So when the tiger attacks, the first thing is not the attack, but the roar. Pay attention. Does not come from the tiger itself, but from the roar, which, in addition to being loud like a jet, has an eerie capacity to fill the space around it, leaving one unsure where to look. So it's like 3D. That roar is like a 3D sound. It comes from everywhere, and so you don't know where to look. It fills the space around it. From close range, the experience is overwhelming and has the effect of separating you from yourself, of scrambling the very neurology that is supposed to save you at times like this. So the very nervous system, the very brain which is supposed to save you in such situations, it becomes like a scrambled egg. Okay, it just goes haywire. Those who have done serious tiger time, for example scientists and hunters, describe the tiger's roar not as a sound so much as a full body experience. So the roar of a tiger is not something you just hear, you experience it throughout the body. Sober, disciplined biologists have sown, they felt the earth shake. So, not some random people, not some drunkards. Sober, disciplined biologists, they soar, they have sown that they felt the earth shake. One Russian hunter, taken by surprise, recalled thinking a dam had burst somewhere. A dam had burst. That's the equivalence of the tiger's roar. In short, the tiger's roar exists in the same sonic realm. Sonic has to do with sound, realm is kingdom. So, in short, the tiger's roar exists in the same sonic realm as a natural catastrophe. It is one of those sounds that give meaning and substance to the fear of God. In quotes. The Udigi, I think that's the tribe's name, I'm mispronouncing it, I'm sure, but that's the tribe's name. The Udigi, Yuri Pionka is a person. Yuri Pionka described the roar of that tiger in the clearing as soul rending. The literal translation from Russian is soul tearing apart. Soul tearing apart. I have heard tigers in the forest, he said, but I never heard anything like that. It was vicious, terrifying. So I don't know if I need to convince you more. So these were a few books. non-fiction. So I consciously chose these books because these are some of my favorite books, but then I have lots of other favorite books from other domains which may not be as easy reads or as much of page turners. So my focus here was to bring some non-fiction books cross genre which you can finish fast and you will be interested in reading them, not dry, so that you are more prepared for reading dry stuff, because we are going to come to dry stuff sooner or later. But this is, it'll get you into the groove. It'll the whole idea of reading not be will not be something you'll run away from. So and these are not fiction. So that's the deal. Okay, so thank you so much. I'll see you in another session. Hope you read at least one of these, and hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much. Take care. I'll see you around. Bye bye.